Welcome everybody to another marketing strategy session. And today we're going to talk about video. We're going to talk about presentations. We're going to talk about live streaming, all those wonderful things that now businesses are doing to get their message across. And I have Jerry Sullivan in the house with me from Dynacom. And he has been doing video, recording, live streaming, and helping executives present themselves in a professional way for several years. So we will give the flowers now. Jerry, I see you have a guitar in the back. I see you have a picture in the back. I see you have a little gold thing in the back. I will let you explain the credentials that we're bringing to the table today.
Okay, well, starting with the guitar, I just love, I'm a percussionist initially, and for most of my life. I bought my first set of drums when I was 8, and been doing a lot of that. But I've come to find that if you're performing somewhere, people don't want to just hear you play the drums. So I had to pick up guitar. I've been playing that for a long time, just recently doing it in public. I highly recommend it to anyone. It's a great tool. If you just need a break, it's nice to just clear your head or whatever.
Now I'm going to stop you because I don't believe the story you just told me. I believe what happened was one of your relatives bought you a drum when you was 8. You start drumming. Your parents was like, "This has got to go," and you got a guitar.
What happened with my parents is they said, if you want drums, you're going to have to pay for them. And I took all the money I had in the world when I was 8 years old and bought the drums. And I think they tolerated it, basically. And I'm thankful that they did, because I'm still drumming to this day and still enjoying that. But I was just recently gifted an electric guitar, and I've really been enjoying that now and learning new ways, learning about bar chords and things that I just would never do with a regular guitar. So
wow,
there's no end.
I know that was one of the things that we did one time, and the parents came back and was so upset, like, "Why did you buy them the drum?" Hey, we didn't know it was going to be a problem, but
well, now in this day, a friend of mine has electronic drums, and
really?
now you can adjust the volume, and it's kind of nice. You can play, you can put on headphones, and you can play and not disturb anybody.
I didn't know. That's real innovative. Wow. So now you went from the drums to guitar to now electric guitar. That's good. I used to want to have a Fender. You know those Fender guitars, what they call them, Fender Rolls? I mean, those are nice. But I don't know how to play any of them. I don't know how to play it. It would just be a decoration in the house. That's about it.
They're pretty to look at too, yes.
But wow, so you now are playing. You're actually about to take it on the road. And you're well versed in drums and guitar, so you can do your own solo and backup.
If I need to, yeah, I could leave the soloing to my bandmates. Got a couple guys that we play with on a regular basis, and we're going actually tomorrow. I'm going to another town to play there, and it's a fun weekend and evening pursuit. It's a great change of pace from all the software and technology and the screens. It's a great way to get away.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you have to have those things that take you away from the job for a minute, away from that grind. And then you have the picture in the back. So explain the picture.
That is a picture of Sydney, and I was there for the Olympics. So this is from the Olympic Games. It's the last Olympics that I worked.
Okay.
And the first Olympics I worked was in Seoul, Korea, and that's where I got the trophy for doing graphics. I was working for boxing for NBC coverage of the of the Olympics, going way back.
And you're so humble with the trophy. It's an Emmy. The trophy, and people are like, "Oh, was that just like a participation trophy?" No, it was not a participation trophy. It was an Emmy. So
It was nice. It was long hours. We worked 16-hour days. We worked 7 days a week. There was never a dull moment. There was very little rest, and it was nice to get home and sometime after the event and have them say, "Hey, you've won an Emmy, and we're gonna, we'll ship it to you."
wow,
So I didn't go to the actual ceremony and put on a tuxedo or any of that stuff.
Oh, so you didn't get a chance to do the red carpet and they ask, "Who are you wearing?" And you're like, "Well, this is Tom Ford."
Yeah. Part of me was glad to miss that part.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I don't like to get too dressed up anymore. I'm getting too old for that. But wow. So you've been to 4 Olympics. You've traveled the world playing. You've won an Emmy, and now you're actually helping companies do video, do presentations, get their message out in a visual way. How is that transition? I mean, this is like the Hollywood life to more of a corporate life. And do you bring some of that Hollywood, pizzazz over to the stuffy corporate arena?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. I mean, there's so much. I really enjoy entertainment and sports and even travel, but having done a lot of that, I'm really, and so many people's lives were changed by the pandemic, and there was a need to kind of reevaluate, what's really meaningful and important. And sports have their place, and I'll forever love doing them, and I'm blessed that I get paid to go to major sporting events. But at my core, my master's work was in instructional design, so it's training and teaching and understanding how to create training materials and how people think and how they absorb information. And with the pandemic, so many people who were teaching in person were now forced to do it from home. And I know some people were even thinking of retiring. And one person in particular, she was told, "No, you cannot retire. We need your content." And she had no technical background, no understanding of cameras, video, lighting, any of that stuff. And so I helped her. Basically, I produced her event, and I helped her with, how to set up her workspace and how to, get a second monitor and put a external camera on it, have the camera at eye level, how to do your lighting. Natural lighting is better, and have backups, and then also to set up all of the her background and the backups, backups for your internet and backups for your lighting and your computer and all that. So what I thought might just last for a short time has been going on for a few years now.
Oh, wow. And that's something that's, a lot of people have been, trying to figure out how to set up a home studio. Because before, you had to have a lot of money. You had to hire a production crew. You had to get all these fancy cameras and fancy lights. I've learned the difference between the LED lights and the umbrella and the ring lights and all that. And now it's like everybody's setting it up at home, and you have your natural lights, you have your ring light. Some people even just dumb it down to having an iPhone. But I know that transition has been big, because you came from a space where you have tens of $1,000 equipment to, I need to set this up in my office, my home office. So how was that transition?
Well, just I guess a sidebar. One thing that's interesting is some of the work that I do on professional sports is primarily has been statistics and computer graphics.
Mhm.
And even that job now, I can do from home. So a lot of my colleagues have set up where they are doing, so when you're watching a basketball game or whatever it might be, somebody very well might be sitting in their basement and doing all of the
Really?
production that way. So it's kind of a little, it's tempting to get more into that, back into that, but so far keeping busy with these virtual training sessions. And so the transition, it was a little tricky, but the fact is things are changing all the time and you just
Yeah.
never know what is going to be coming next. But for me, the focus on the content, the
Mhm.
content development and the message, I mean, I'm just blown away by some of the information that's now available through, what are called podcasts. That
Mhm.
even that is, kind of a vague notion,
Yeah.
but and it's evolving. So but really at the core of whatever I'm doing is that storytelling, and the
Okay.
message. And then you bring in the professional, the high production value, or the production values that are appropriate for the audience and the situation.
And that's a key point. Like you said, the content is really the focus. That's really what's going to make people resonate with the information, follow you, and so forth. And then all of the technical aspect of it, that production aspect of it comes second. But the interesting thing is, and I fall guilty of it as well. As you can see, we had a little session before this, and you was helping me out. We focus more on the technical. I need to get the lighting right. I need to get the background right. I need to get, all the technical stuff. And then when it comes to the content, it's like, well, I didn't really think about what we're going to talk about. I was so busy worrying about what kind of camera should I get? Should I get this C920, or should I get the professional mic, or should I use the computer mic? And so we focus all on that versus saying, okay, the content is the most important thing. Even if I'm blurry, the content is important. And then we basically grow into having the better technology as we build and go from there.
Yeah, as you're saying that too, I'm reminded, I've another aspect of what we do at Dynacom is manage digital signage systems. So corporate communications for all of North America. There's one company that we've managed their signage, and a lot of these companies, the same thing. They're focused on what kind of TVs are we going to get, and what size, and video walls, and um, figuring out the wiring and the bandwidth and the backups. And then people get these digital signage systems in place. I've seen them in hospitals, I've seen them in doctors' offices, I've seen them all over the place.
Mhm.
And then they have not really given any thought to the content, or very little. And
Yeah.
again, if you start with the content, there's a saying from Louis Sullivan, a famous architect from Chicago, who was a teacher of Frank Lloyd Wright, and he said, "Form follows function." You want to start with what it is you're trying to accomplish, and yeah, the tools come last. The technology, it might be the right tool, might be a pencil, and so you don't want to put all that investment into something before you know what you need.
And I probably should have met you a long time ago, because I have several different things and tools that I don't use, and it's always never good enough. And then, if I would have spent a lot more time putting out content, I could have had thousands of pieces of content out there and still been using the computer mic. I've done the Snowball to the MTX to the Meteor to all these different mics, and then still I spent hours looking at the mics. Oh, I don't like the way that one sounds. Oh, I should have, this, that. It's not warm enough. It's not. Instead of just saying, just record something, put it out, let the public see, and get the information. And then after I finally get everything sounding right, looking right, then I'm tired. I don't feel like recording
Right.
any content. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter, how you get there. It's a journey, and you're going to be going through trial and error, and so what matters most is right now. We are where we are, and so and that's another thing I like about this technology is we're able to teach each other, we're able to grow together, we're able to help each other, and it's really, I find it very rewarding. And I like I said, I still love flying out to DC to do a Georgetown game or whatever it might be. But
that's my squad. I love Georgetown. I fly up there to watch games too. I am a Georgetown fan from baby.
is that right?
Oh yes. Oh, matter of fact, can I let me do it? I might mess it up, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Well, my camera won't show it. I gotta take my camera won't show it. I've got a Georgetown banner from when they won in '84.
So when I was out just last month and got to meet Patrick, and I wasn't expecting all that, so it was kind of a fun experience. So
Oh, wow.
so there's that. That's kind of like an aside, but it all ties together. Whatever we learn and whatever experiences we have, I don't consider any of it to be wasted time.
Yes, definitely. Wow, I want to show my Georgetown banner.
You can edit that in
man.
later. You do that in post.
In post, yes. That is amazing. You get a chance to shoot the Georgetown games. I am so envious. I would love to have been able to do that. I was thinking about getting season tickets. It wouldn't have made sense me to fly from Atlanta to Georgetown every time, DC every time a game.
That would be true dedication.
True dedication. They need to win a little bit more for that, though.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. So, but wow. So, when you're consulting, so when you're working with, let's say a company says we need to record some content. We are thinking about putting out a series. What are some of the things that you do to set up that process? I mean, what are some of the best practices you may tell them, or you may say, here's step 1, 2, 3. How do you usually approach it when they come to you?
Well, the first step is going to be kind of an audit or an inventory of where are we at. What do you have? How far have you gotten? So I'm not looking to recreate anything that's already covered. I'm trying to find the gaps. I'm trying to find what they need. So quite often the people I'm working with have good, solid content. But just recently, I'm working with someone who has this revolutionary approach to, in this case, it's emotional intelligence. And so he's kind of got his own take on it, and he's been working on it for decades. And but he's not an expert at graphic design. So that's one area where I've been kind of coaching or even coming in and helping to take his visuals and make them more visually appealing. Get less words on the screen, add more photos. Also, in watching as he's presented his content, determine maybe there's more opportunities for interaction with the audience and bring people in more. So that's really it. I'll kind of, because generally people are not just starting from square one, but they've got either ideas, they've got content, maybe they have a studio, maybe they wrote a book, whatever it might be. And so it can be anywhere from that early stage of design and development to the delivery and getting into the production. And so I feel fortunate kind of understanding that whole range, and then just being able to either jump in with my expertise or bring in some of the, I work with so many amazingly talented people. So there's not really anything we've come across that we couldn't figure out.
Okay. Now, is it as detailed as storyboarding and all that like it used to be back years ago, or is it more like concept and off the cuff?
Yeah, we do maybe storyboarding, or mostly it's kind of a rundown.
Okay.
So if we're talking about an event and we've got the content and we're trying to kind of get the flow of it,
Mhm.
there are all different tools, I guess, to lay it out. So initially starting with an outline and then just kind of building it out from there. But yeah, the visuals tend to be last.
Okay.
Uh, again, the focus is on the message, really understanding the audience. That's critical. So
Mhm.
knowing who you're talking to
Yeah.
is really key as to how you present information, because you have to know where they're at, what they
Yeah.
already know, meet them where they're at, and then
Mhm.
bring them to wherever they need to get to.
That's a real key point. Yeah, you need to know your audience, especially today with everything going viral. You start seeing these doctors up there doing dances in the hallway, and it's like, how is that going to bring you more, business? So you start seeing these professionals trying to do what's trending, what's going viral, but those viral trends aren't really business viral trends. They're more entertainment. And that's real key to say, hey, know your audience. Your audience might not, if you're selling, let's say you're selling some sort of I don't know, technical, pharmaceutical, or highly advanced product or service, you being silly and doing pranks might not help you, generate more business.
Well, yeah, and
Help
I
your
guess
bottom.
if it's to a particular end,
Mhm.
that because we do talk about connection before content, so that
Oh,
you
okay.
want to, understand people and have them know, well, just that you have an understanding of where they're at, and that they can get a sense of where you're coming from. Uh,
Okay.
but also, um, I guess there does need to be an element of entertainment. Um,
Okay.
and but how it's done, and if it's appropriate for the audience, that's the other piece.
Okay. Now that you got everybody, in line and they're ready, the content's ready, they start recording. Um, how do you get your clients comfortable to record? I mean, some people are naturals. They see the lights come on and it's like showtime. Then others are more reserved and they might, be shy or introverted. How do you kind of coach them through? Here's how the best ways to present when you're on camera.
I can tell you what I've learned from the process, because I've always been a behind the scenes person. And
Mhm.
so even to this day, I mean, my first choice is now is to be on camera. But what I've learned in doing more and more presentations myself is that
Mhm.
there is just no substitute for practice,
Okay.
rehearsing, doing it. You got to put in the time. And the
Mhm.
more time you spend, especially in the case of the person who I mentioned about, we're doing presentation skills. This is content that she's been presenting for 30 years. And
Oh
so
wow.
she was a natural to the camera because she didn't have to think about anything. I mean, the information just flowed. So if you're taking on new content, then
Mhm.
it's going to be a matter of rehearsing and making sure that you really know your stuff.
Okay. Okay. And then the last thing is post production. That's the fun stuff. That's when you are up late at night with the coffee and you're doing all the things to make the videos magic. When you're dealing with corporate, because we talked about entertainment, but when you're dealing with corporate, how, I guess you would say, how do you approach that? I mean, with entertainment, it's more of the wow factors. It's like you was talking about the NBA and the NFL. They have things going across the screen at the bottom when you're like, "Ooh, wow, that's neat. Oh, that's a picture of so and so. Oh, that and that's all exciting and all." But when you're talking about corporate presentation, how much of that distracts from the message how do you start to say, okay, this is a good way of doing posts, and making this to where it's still, I guess, presented in a way where we're not taking away from the message?
Yeah, I will say that my preference is live events.
Mhm.
But in the corporate world, that's generally not justified. And
Mhm.
and so we try to do what we call, or we used to call, I'm dating myself, live to tape. Now it's live to drive,
Okay.
or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. And even then, I try to avoid or minimize editing. So it might just be putting
Okay.
a header on, some kind of orientation at the beginning, some at the end. And
Mhm.
now what I'm seeing, I mean, you look at some of these podcasters like, I don't know, to alienate a Joe
Mhm.
Rogan or a Lex Fridman or some of the more popular podcasters, they're doing a 3-hour interview, and then they're chopping that up and they're putting it on phones, and they're putting it on, I mean, they're putting it on even TikTok or wherever.
Yeah.
Just so many channels now that uh, the post-production becomes a different experience. It used to be, sitting with an editor and late nights and all that stuff. I've certainly been through it, but these days, getting the content out is the key thing. And so I try to minimize post-production as much as possible.
Okay. So it's more of speed to market than having a whole, big production. And you're right. They chop it up. I mean, you've got chop up for stories, and you've got chops for reels, and you've got YouTube, and then you've got, all the different platforms that you're presenting it, that once it presented in a different format or a different way, and their audience consumes it differently. So yeah, you're right. They'll record the whole episode, hours and hours of content, and then let the team pretty much slice and dice it and then distribute it, and go from there.
Well,
So
and part of the issue is there's a shelf life to a lot of content. So some things, some concepts are evergreen. So, some of
yeah,
these things that I've mentioned, I may have said the same thing I did 30 years ago. I would say, focus on the audience, focus on the content. But then
yeah,
when we get to talking about cameras or specific technology, whatever, that might not be, in 6 months, that might be different again. And
yeah.
so that's the nice thing about keeping it simple, and
Mhm.
then slicing it up in different ways and serving it to the right audience in the right format.
Well, that makes sense. Well, I thank you for all the education that you shared with us today. Um, what would be, I guess you would say, your ideal audience to reach out to you if they need help with producing some content of their own?
Yeah, I work with trainers and coaches and consultants primarily for a lot of this. It's really also the people in corporate training that are looking
Mhm.
for content. Those are people I definitely want to reach and kind of make that connection and help to get the same thing, get the content. Because what I'm finding in corporate training, for example, there used to
Mhm.
be centralized learning departments, and a lot of them
Okay.
have just been disbanded. And now the responsibility for getting employees trained, for example, is falling
Mhm.
on the business and on the manager. And so it can be harder for someone like me to find them and them to find me, and in the mix, the facilitators and the content people.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I've been trying to make those connections.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because before they used to have just a department for training, and they would have a whole facilities, and they would record the DVDs, and then they send you out the
Whole
DVD.
studios, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it has changed, especially with everybody from home. They're like, hey, we're not going to do that. And you need to figure out how to train your people on your own. Um, wow. That's real interesting. So, well, great. Thanks for sharing. And if you need to reach out, it's donacom.tv. right?
It is dynacomtv.com.
Oh, dynacomtv.com. Okay.
dynacomtv.com. And
Okay.
also on LinkedIn is a good way to reach me. So I definitely appreciate, Jeff, appreciate your time, and always great to get different perspectives, and I'm sure we'll be speaking again soon.
Definitely. And thanks so much for sharing. I mean, like I say, I love these interviews because I learn a lot. And I hope the audience learns a lot. I know they will, because there's so much behind the scenes that happens that a lot of the influencers don't share. And so they make it seem as if it's just easy and magic and there's no thought process behind it. And I love interviewing people such as yourself that can bring the behind the scenes and the true magic that makes it work, that the true ingredients that makes the cake rise. So I appreciate you sharing that. And as y'all can see, one more time, if you look to the little gold thing in the back, he knows what he's talking about. Congratulations on that, Emmy. Congratulations on all your success, and thanks again, Jerry, for being on.
All right, Jeff, thanks so much. Also, take care.